Live. Today is Wednesday, September 22nd. It's 12 p.m. Pacific. I'm Tulio Sirgusa, broadcasting from Southern California, sunny Southern California, and I'm joined by Kim Lantis in sunny Hermosillo, Mexico,
Not today. It's
and
cloudy today.
cloudy Hermosillo, Mexico, and Carlos Ponce in Cuernavaca, Mexico. I'm not sure if
Oh
it's
yeah,
raining, cloudy, or sunny, but it's
it's
always
sunny,
sunny on
sunny.
Dojo
It's
Live.
always sunny. Yeah,
It's always
absolutely,
sunny on
especially
Dojo,
here.
and it's 5 o'clock somewhere, according to Jimmy Buffett. So anyway, we have our guest today, Ade Adeyemo, who's the founder of Joko Inc. We're going to have an interesting
Hello.
conversation today. Welcome to the show, Ade. It's good to have you. I know you're broadcasting from the Pacific Northwest in Seattle. Welcome to Dojo Live.
Thank you,
The not
Tulio.
so sunny
Thank you for
Seattle.
having me. Yeah, it's pretty
But when
gray
it's
right
sunny,
now.
it's really pretty in Seattle. So
Yes.
here we go. So today we're talking about the creator economy. But before we go into the topic today, let's get to know our guest a little bit. Ade, would you please just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll find out what Joko's all about. But tell us about you a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Ade Adeyemo, and I my background is in finance, and I've recently taken a what you may call a left turn. And after going to graduate school at University of Washington, I've embarked on a journey where I founded Joko. And what we do is we tell the stories of unique recording artists in a way that builds a stronger bond between the artists and the viewers. And yeah, thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. So I know when we were off the air a little bit, you were telling us how Joko is a culmination of everything you love. Like you made your passions your business. Tell us a little bit about that. What gave birth to this idea, and what is it exactly that you guys do?
So yes, I've always more or less been a you may call it like a music enthusiast. Not a musician, but just generally just been in and around the music industry and have friends that are musicians. And my professional career was in banking, and going through undergrad, studying econ, and then going into the financial services industry. I was always in and around transactions or something related to demand and supply, if you may, which I kind of understood easier. That what's funny is I was initially a computer science major, and it worked out for a little bit, but then when I took an econ class, I was like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And so I've sort of blended those passions of the creative side and the analytical side and formed Joko in a way that meets a need within the space of the music industry today.
All right. Well, what an interesting turn of events. Congratulations. Always exciting to see people pursuing their loves, right? The things that make them tick. So let's
Uh,
go right into the topic and see what we can learn today. Let's kick it off.
mhm,
Carlos, please introduce the show.
Absolutely, thank you, Tulio. So today we're going to be speaking about the, as you mentioned it earlier, Tulio, alternative economy, specifically alternative business models in today's creator economy. And we're also going to be touching on how to use technology to unlock value for creators in the music industry. That's what our guest chose for today. So let's start there, Ade. Why
mhm.
did you choose this particular topic for today's conversation, and why did you feel that it might be relevant for today's day and age? Thank you.
It's because it's a really good time to talk about content, and there are very exciting things going on in what we call quote unquote the creator economy. Um, it's relevant today because we're in the middle of this big change. And so I've spent a lot of time researching that space for my business and also just in general out of interest. And I see a lot of new things, a lot of dynamic things. And I think that we are noticing that more and more people are becoming, in some way or form, part of this creator economy. And so that's why it's relevant today.
Thank
S-
you, Ade.
So, Ade, I'm curious to just kind of let's sort of peel the onion a little bit, right? The music
Hmm.
industry has gone through quite a evolution in the recent 10 to 20 years. It's changed dramatically. Self-publishing has become a big thing, similar to even the publishing business with authors, right? But that's also created opportunity and challenges because now it's a lot more crowded, and getting to the right audience and building that audience is quite challenging. Whereas before,
Hmm.
maybe you had a music label that already had that baked in, right? So
Yeah.
what is it that's becoming an opportunity and also the challenge in today's age as it relates to people in the music industry? And how
Okay.
is it that Joko is sort of filling the gap or uh, solving some of those challenges that have arisen in that industry?
Okay. Thank you, Tulio. Let me put it in context, right? I think it's better if we look at it more from what's going on a broader level, and then we can narrow it down to what's going on in the music industry. Would that be okay?
Yes, great.
Okay. So first of all, what really is this creator economy, right? It's businesses that are started by self-employed people, right? And they just make money off of their skills, their knowledge, or their following. And what used to happen in the past was you would have a large brand or a couple of large brands. They would need, they would, engage with, they would work with creators to make content and drive engagement towards their brands. But what happened was, and it still happens, is these brands have control over what creator, what kind of content, and who's getting paid. So there's sort of this gatekeeping dynamic in that space. But then with the rise of digital platforms like YouTube and Instagram, and Vine is gone now, but Vine played a crucial part too, people were able to amass large followings, and that gave them some leverage. And so what happens obviously is like, well, if you're a creator, you say, well, if I have this large following, how do I make money off of my following? And so, this question of monetization has occurred. Um, Startups have come to meet that demand. And so to tie it now back to your question, you'll find that most startups in this space are in three buckets. They're in content creation, they're in monetization, or they're in financing. And to put it into perspective, you have $1.3 billion so far in 2021 invested in the creator economy, and it's only going to increase. And so now whenever we see that, okay, these are the tools that are actually helping the content creators, you think, all right, what gap am I going to fill as a startup, right? And so Joko comes in and says, hey, specific to the music industry, because musicians are they are their own type of creators. If you look at them as creators, um, while there are tools to help somebody that's making content on YouTube to monetize their fans more efficiently, musicians don't necessarily, at least based on my research, they don't want to be data scientists or market research professionals. What they want is, how can I do what I do and get paid a fair share? And so that's how we built Joko around meeting that need. And it then involves us touching on three of those buckets to different extents. So in a way, Joko is creating content, Joko is monetizing this content, and Joko is helping these artists make money from it, which you could consider financing.
Fascinating.
So
Uh,
in essence, you're saying to the musicians out there, do what you do best and we'll take care of the rest.
Yes, full service.
Full service.
Wow, amazing.
but I find it interesting that the phrase that displays right on your website, the first one that you see when you go to your website, stories
Yeah.
behind the music. Okay,
Yeah.
Hmm.
it's for a number of reasons it strikes a chord because Dojo Live's tagline is the stories that bring us together, right? So it's like sort of like the
Yeah.
tagline, right? So it's about
Hmm.
storytelling. So my question is, what criteria do you use to curate your content in terms of the stories that are shared, or what do you mean when you say stories behind the music? Can you give us an example or walk us through
Yes.
how
Mm.
the curation process?
Yeah. Yeah. So think about when you would discover a new musician or new music. Back in the day, we started out with audio,
Hmm.
right? And then it evolved and we added video to that experience. And now what we're doing is we're combining audio and video and we're adding the story, which gives a bigger context to that experience of discovery. Um, how we curate this is it's actually a very interesting experience. We don't know what to expect. Just the same way, on Dojo Live, you don't know what I'm going to say. There's no real script to it. But what we
Hmm.
do is we spend a lot of time engaging with the artists and their teams and building out this experience for them, which they do enjoy because they have a hand in like saying, okay, this is what I want to do when I'm talking about, my life, and this is what I want to talk about. So giving them the ability to build their story with us makes them always generally receptive to work with us. And yeah, curation is really largely in their hands. We just make it look nice for them.
Okay, interesting.
Now, historically, just going
Mhm.
backwards a little bit, the labels would create the story around the stars, right? So you didn't
Yeah,
necessarily have your true, authentic self represented. There was some kind of packaged
exactly.
product that was put into the marketplace. And I know
Hmm.
I've heard of some artists who struggled through that, right? They were like, I don't want to do
Yeah.
this kind of music. I want to do something else. I.e., someone like
Hmm.
Jewel, right? Who eventually said, I'm not doing this. I'm doing my own thing. So if I'm hearing this correctly, what Joko's doing, it's not just helping these creators put the music out there, monetize the music, but it's helping the fans actually have a sort of intimate relationship with the creator by exposing who they are, by creating a process where I can get to know you as the artist, which gives more context, more meaning behind perhaps the music you're creating. Is that
Correct.
okay? So how has that been received? Is there like a generational thing that's working better, or certain like or millennials more interested in that kind of scenario? Or is everyone interested in that kind
Hmm.
of scenario? What are you seeing in terms of adoption in the marketplace?
Gen Z gets it best.
Really?
Yeah. And, because I work with a lot of younger people, you see, I can think about, yes, we want to tell a story, but I definitely depend on a lot of people within that generation to give feedback on what it is that they want to see and how they want it presented. Like for example, um, let me give you like a very good example. We just did the first one, and we did mixed media, and we did a VHS camera and a high definition camera, and we found a very nice way to combine these two viewing experiences. But when like a millennial sees it, sometimes the VHS could be, wait, why isn't it stabilized? Or I want to see the person's face a little more, and like what's the scrambling channel thing? But when Gen Z sees that, it's like, oh, this is cool, like I like it, and
Mm.
so we build it more for Gen Z. There's a lot of like creative leverage, especially too in that space. And that's what we're seeing from adoption, to answer your question.
Very cool.
So, Ade, you are, let's call it summoning creators, right? To reach out to you and to do something with their creations, basically, right? So,
Uh,
no,
I
yes,
wouldn't
my
say we're summoning them. We actually select who we work with
Mm.
no, but is this
because,
like a call?
sorry.
Is this like a call for entries kind of thing, or then you can
No, no,
share it? No.
not with musicians. No, no. We
Okay,
just
okay.
say this is who we want to work with, and then we
Oh,
find a way
okay,
to reach them. In our
okay.
experience, generally they don't say no because we've built this with their incentives aligned with ours.
I
So
see. Okay,
there's a high level of
Mm.
curation involved. We don't just take anybody, so to speak.
okay.
So how
Thank
does a
you. Thank you.
musician get your attention? You choose them, you reach out to them, or I think
Yeah,
Carlos was asking, how do I pitch you guys if I want to be part of this? I'm
you
hearing
know,
you can't pitch us. How does someone if someone's interested in participating,
yeah,
how do
yeah.
they
I
do
mean,
that?
honestly, they could just email me, or actually the company email. We're still very early stage, so not many know what's going on. But
Okay.
if they wanted to reach out, yeah, they could reach out to me directly or to the company email at info at joko.live, and we'll reply, we'll respond. I
I
I
mean,
don't
Carlos is a pretty
I
good
don't
flute
not
player.
respond.
Maybe he wants to have representation. Put his
do do
flute
no,
playing out.
do Gen Z listen to your flute playing?
no, I just play for fun. I mean, I'm not a pro by it. Not even, but not the furthest stretch of your imagination. It's just for fun. So
You
technology,
never
you
know. We can
say
make something work out.
Ooh,
probably. Who
Carlos.
knows? Let me
New
grab my
career.
flute. Let me grab my flute. It's right here. I got it right here. So okay.
Oh,
So
nice.
Ade, you
Yeah.
mentioned using technology to unlock value for
Yes.
creators. Would you
Mm-hmm.
mind touching on that a little bit? What type of technology are you talking about specifically for those who might be watching and are not sure about what you mean by
Yeah.
technology? So what technology are you referencing?
Um, I don't know if you're familiar, but in the startup space right now, there are a lot of companies that are doing this marketplace business, and we have a different way, a tech-enabled way of approaching it that's not the traditional marketplace. So, to answer your question broadly, we've built a unique tech-enabled marketplace that
Hmm.
helps the artists that we work with to earn more from streaming than they
Hmm.
would on another streaming platform. But to go into more detail, where you have a lot of marketplaces are two-sided marketplace, where somebody wants something and somebody has it, and then this entity comes in the middle to match the demand and supply. We take a different approach where we're more of a market maker.
Mm.
So I'll give you an example, and I think this is a very unique business model, which I've not seen it done anywhere else. But think about Uber or any other like marketplace that we work with today. You want a car, you want to go somewhere, you need a car, and then the technology platform is going to find somebody that has a car and
Hmm.
match you. So the way I like to talk about how a market maker works is think about one car, only one car, stationary car, but you want to use it and I want to use it, and the technology is matching us and we're transacting between each other.
Hmm.
So it's less cars, but we're still getting what we want done.
Mm-hmm. I
It's
see.
just that you can't necessarily, I guess it's not like you're going to depend on that one car continually.
Hmm.
Obviously there'll be more cars, but now more people are using it and transacting versus like saying, okay, I need a car and I need a ride, and then we have to do that over and over and over again.
Hmm.
It really does like adjust the risk factors with demand and supply in marketplaces.
Mm. I see. Okay. Thank you, Ade. So,
You know,
okay, guys.
I'm listening, and I'm thinking to myself, what other industry could use this? I can't stop having this voice tell me the publishing industry, like books, authors.
Yeah.
Is this eventually something you might leverage to go beyond music and other creators
Yes,
like
actually.
authors and people like that?
Yes. I get that a lot. Like I said, I really just started with music because that's where I'm interested in. But we see the application in other forms of content. Like somebody has mentioned comedy.
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe
Comedy.
we'll see.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
see a lot of comics there. They could do their skits on Instagram or TikTok, but they don't really monetize that unless they got a sponsor, right? But that
Yeah.
could be an interesting
Yeah.
one for sure.
I can
Yeah.
envision even
Well,
animators for, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure we can start
We're
thinking about a lot
expanding your
of things. What
business
I do.
scope as we talk, Ade.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. The thing is there are nuances to each of these types of creators. It's a lot of times these things appear to be like one size fits all, but in building this, I've come to realize there are a lot of nuances to take into account. Um, some either owing to how that person like puts out their craft, frequency and like how do they actually get it to customers. There's some other things to think about, but it does definitely have application in other spaces within the content creation area.
Very cool. So, I would like to turn the conversation a bit back toward you and your personal story, and toward your personal story. So you're you're pretty early on, but let's talk about what has gone right and maybe what has gone wrong. So, what would the you of today tell you yourself, that year, 2, 3 ago? What have you learned throughout this entire process?
2, 3 years ago, me? Is that who I'm talking to?
Sure. When did Joko first come about?
I mean, the reason I asked that is I would tell myself different things depending on like how many years ago it was. But 2, 3 years ago, your question was what I've learned. Can you repeat your question again? Sorry.
Yes, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, what you've learned. Let's talk about what's gone right and what maybe hasn't gone the way you would have hoped. So let's talk about lessons learned throughout this entire process in your early stages of your company.
There are a lot of mistakes in like putting together a startup. So many times, like I don't even care about the mistakes, to be very honest. It's just kind of like having a write-off account, really. It's like, yeah, it's gonna happen. All right, now how do we fix it? That's the way I think about it. When I started off like working on it, you'll make a mistake. For example, sometimes I feel like, oh, it's time to like do customer facing things. And then a lot of times I'm like, no, maybe not now. So that's happened a few times. But I'm a lot more cautious about that. So that's just like one example. I will say though that the experience has definitely helped in helping me take on more responsibility, because so I'll tell you, for example, you're building something and then if your engineer tells you, hey, we had a malware attack, me 3 years ago would almost melt down like, oh my gosh, look how much we've put into this. Is everything over? But now it's thinking more like, okay, cool. Like, how do we figure out how to fix this and continue with what we're doing? And I think that that's being able to approach life with that kind of an attitude and mentality. It goes beyond building Joko. It's more like helping me grow as a person. So I wouldn't say things have really gone wrong. It's just, it's just what happens when you're building. That's the way I think about it.
Lessons, right?
Yeah, lessons. Yeah.
It's a
Growing
common
up,
theme.
have you?
It's a common theme I've heard from many entrepreneurs about the journey of self-realization. Building a business, being an entrepreneur, it really challenges you to the core, and either you break down and give up, or you grow. So, congratulations for that. I'm hearing this theme over and over, and in terms of the creator economy, and that's been going on probably for 2 decades, but it's really coming to life now. It's personalization. Is that what's driving all this? Just personalization. People want things to be a specific way that triggers some kind of personal emotional feeling. And the companies that get that do very well. I mean, Apple's done a great job, when Steve Jobs was around, in building an emotional attachment to a product. Is this what's driving a lot of this creator economy, the need, the desire for that personalization, for something that's not cookie cutter for all, that's a little bit more niche? What would you have to say
Yes.
about that?
Yes, I would agree. From a viewer standpoint or a consumer standpoint, it's personalization. It's like, does this thing mean something to me? Versus if I'm just watching something, And from a business's standpoint, it's differentiation. So am I doing what everybody else is doing and just trying to put something out there so that, maybe I can scale? Or am I really like focusing on a niche and actually giving them what they want? So people are looking for differentiated content, and differentiated content usually tends to drive, you know, a deeper connection. It's more personal.
Very cool. Well,
Right.
we're coming up on time. You guys have any other questions before we wrap it
I
up?
was just curious as to any insight you might have on how personalization differentiation can scale, right? It's my initial thought is that this is a slow, tedious one-on-one approach. But how does technology help that go big?
Okay. Well, I don't know how different businesses plan on scaling, but I can speak for Joko. Um, First of all, we're considering two very different ways of scaling. In doing the first episode, we noticed that a lot of artists resonate with what we're doing, and artists have a follower base. So one way to approach scale could be, hey, do we start doing episodes with bigger artists that are bringing larger numbers to the platform? Or if people, start actually doing this but don't know how to monetize it, maybe we help them and just have the content, either on our platform or on their platform, but take more of a B2B dimension and say, okay, let's show you how our technology helps you make money with this.
Right. But I mean, the beautiful thing about personalization, you'd be surprised how many people like the same things. There's like 8
Yeah,
billion
yeah,
people,
actually.
there's a good number of us
Hmm.
who like the same stuff. We're not that
Yeah,
different, even though we
We're not
like
that
the
unique,
things
huh?
personalized.
yeah,
But
yeah, no,
w-
that's very true.
so we're up on time, but we want to ask one final question. Any words of wisdom in terms of anyone who's maybe, a banker and isn't having a good time being a banker and decides, you know what, I want to go down this path of creative work and technology. I'm picking on bankers, but it could be anyone. The idea of changing lane, if you will, from having
Oh,
invested a lot of time and energy in education and then changing lane. Any words of advice for those who might be sitting
yeah.
on the fence about worrying about changing lane? What would you
Yeah, I met
say?
someone that was in the middle of it. She was a consultant and she called it the left turn, so I call it the left turn too. Um, I think you just do it, but know what you're getting into. If you feel like you can, go for it. I think the fear of not being uncomfortable is what stops a lot of people from being the best they can be. And if you keep that in your mind and you're strategic about what you're doing and you have a plan, then you just let the universe like figure the rest out for you.
What are great 15-second clips, Bea. You got to package that and promote that. I love that
There you have it.
quote. Ade, it's been great to have you. We have to keep up with you and see how you progress along as you build this. This sounds an amazing, amazing platform for content creators, especially musicians. Maybe even folks that have been sitting on the fence about pursuing their music talents. There's a lot of people who have hidden talents, like Carlos, who plays the flute really, really well. So thanks for being with us. Stay with us as we go off
Absolutely.
the air. What do we got coming up tomorrow? We got one more show, right, Carlos?
One more show, Tulio, and that is with Vishal Sunak, the co-founder and CEO of Link Squares. The topic is going to be AI and contracts, elevating the legal team. That's what we have for tomorrow, right here on Dojo Live at 12 p.m. Pacific. And well, if thanks Ade, and thanks my teammates as well as ever. Stay safe, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.